The millionaire's son drowns. Only the humble housekeeper dares to save him in a shocking twist. The grand lakefront mansion buzzed with noise, laughing voices, clinking glasses, and the rustle of silk gowns sweeping marble floors. The Mitchell family was in full display, wealth, power, secrets buried beneath their smiles. But none of this caught Evelyn Harper's attention. She moved silently through the halls, unnoticed, her footsteps soft against the ornate rugs, the housekeeper's worn hands folded neatly in front of her apron, eyes steady, mind miles away beyond the glittering party. Then, a scream ripped through the air like a sudden thunderclap, sharp, raw, chilling. "Luke, someone help, he's in the water." Heads snapped around. Cut crystal glasses trembled in stunned hands. Faces drained of color. Evelyn's heart hammered. Luke Mitchell, the reckless prince of the family, had fallen into the icy lake just beyond the manicured lawn. His loudmouth swagger and careless grin usually soured the air, but now something darker tightened the throat of everyone who heard. The crowd froze, fingers pointing helplessly. No one moved, except Evelyn. Without a second thought, she tore off her apron and plunged into the freezing water. A shocking silence fell over the manicured lawn, broken only by muffled gasps and the frantic splashes, cutting through that still afternoon. Cold bit sharp. The lake's dark depths swallowed sounds and light. Evelyn kicked hard, lungs burning, muscles trembling as she fought through the chilling black. Her fingers scraped rough mud, the water numb and cruel. Then she caught him, Luke, limp and pale, sinking fast. Gripping his jacket, she dragged him back, pulling with every ounce of strength. Hearts pounding ashore, people finally snapped out of their shock. Hands reached toward him, but all eyes were on Evelyn. So small, so quiet, now soaked and shaking, dragging the air from death. She laid Luke on the grass. His chest rose and fell raggedly, coughing, sputtering, unconscious. The family circled around, whispers flaming through them like wildfire. Why her? The housekeeper? Why not the men? She's just a servant, but she saved his life. Luke's eyelids fluttered open. His gaze was different, hollow, yet fierce, as if he'd seen something terrifying down below. Unease rippled through the crowd. Rumor sparked, whispers deepening like shadows. What had Evelyn's dive really uncovered? What had Luke seen in the darkness? The estate's perfect facade suddenly felt brittle, ready to shatter. And then, something slipped from Luke's clenched hand. A small folded note, worn and stained. Evelyn caught sight of it, but couldn't read what it said. The crowd held its breath. Somewhere beneath the polite chatter, a dangerous secret stirred, waiting to explode. And Evelyn, quiet, humble Evelyn, was suddenly the keeper of a mystery that could upend everything. What truth was hiding beneath the surface, and what price would saving a life demand? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat as she watched the note drop from Luke's hand, fluttering in the cold breeze. The crowd held its collective breath, eyes wide, hearts pounding. She had come so close to losing him, and now this small piece of paper seemed to hold the weight of the world. What is it? Someone whispered, but no one dared to move. Luke lay there, shivering, life just returning to his limbs. Evelyn's mind raced as she reached for the note, feeling the eyes of the guests prickling against her skin. In that moment of clarity, a second scream cut through the stillness. "Get back, it's in the water." Man's voice rang out, hollering while pointing toward the center of the lake. A dark shadow emerged from the depths, sending waves crashing against the shore. A figure, large and horrifying, surfaced, glistening under the afternoon sun. It wasn't just the lake that was frozen in shock now. It was everyone. A collective gasp erupted. Luke's family recoiled, faces twisted in fear. "What is that?" someone shrieked, backing up instinctively. Evelyn squinted through the spray, trying to make sense of the chaos. As the shadow drew closer, the horrific outline morphed into a face, a man, but not just any man. It was David, Luke's older brother, missing for years, presumed dead. "No, it can't be," Luke croaked, his voice a hoarse whisper. Evelyn's heart skipped. She remembered the stories whispered in corners about David's dark interests, his secretive ventures that led to his disappearance. They had been told he was involved in something dangerous, something that could destroy the family. But how was he alive? And what had happened beneath the lake's surface? A cold haze enveloped the scene as David clutched something in his hands, his eyes searching frantically. The crowd's murmurs intensified, a wave of confusion and terror. "What does this mean?" someone shouted, their words trembling. "Is he here to harm us?" I need him," Luke shouted suddenly, his voice breaking, raw with pain. He pulled himself upright, desperate. "He's my brother." David's expression shifted from that of longing to despair. He brought his hands up, revealing the bloodied remnants of a torn shirt, grasping what looked like a small box. It glimmered ominously, like a curse waiting for release. Evelyn felt the ground beneath her tremble. The tension was electric. The truth of Luke's family hung in the air, thick with unspoken horrors. Secrets that had been buried were rising like the dead. And there they were, at the brink of revelation. But then, no one saw it coming. With a mighty swing, David tossed the box toward the crowd, shattering it against the ground. A plume of smoke erupted, swirling upwards, engulfing everyone in a thick white veil. Chaos ensued as screams erupted, and people stumbled backward, clawing at their throats. Luke, still on the ground, started to cough violently, his eyes widening in terror. "What is happening?" he gasped, panic consuming him. As the chaos reigned, Evelyn's eyes connected with David's. In that brief moment, she saw something: fear, remorse, and a hint of desperation. Was he trying to warn them? Was he the villain, or just a pawn in a deeper game? Through the fog, she could barely make out Luke's frantic face. Shadows danced around her, but all she knew was the weight of the mystery now pressing down on them. What secret had the lake held all these years, and what were they truly willing to sacrifice to uncover it? The answers loomed just out of reach, swirling with the smoke, leaving them all gasping for truth and for air. Evelyn fought through the choking smoke, her chest tight, panic rising like the swirling mist. She had to find Luke, had to save him from whatever horror was unfolding. The air stung in her lungs, sharp and bitter. The chaos erupted around her, screams mixed with shouts of confusion. The crowd scrambled, pressed against each other, hearts racing, eyes wide with terror. "Get back," someone yelled. "We need to call for help." But Evelyn couldn't think about anyone else. She stumbled through the haze, her hands outstretched, desperate for any sign of Luke. The wind picked up, swirling the smoke toward her, thick and suffocating. Then suddenly, silence, the kind that grabs you by the throat. Everyone seemed to stop, holding their breath, waiting. Evelyn turned, barely able to see, but her heart dropped when she noticed Luke wrestling against his own fear. The color drained from his face, and she knew something was wrong. "Evelyn," he rasped, his voice raw. "What happened?" His eyes danced with terror, flickering toward his brother. Before she could answer, a sharp crack split the air. All eyes turned as the ground trembled beneath them. From somewhere deep underground, rumble echoed like a great beast awakening. The edge of the lake rippled, waves crashing against the shore. But that wasn't the only thing that emerged. Out of nowhere, a figure fell from the sky. An object, dark and heavy, landing with a thud that shook the ground. It rolled, coming to rest at Evelyn's feet. She could hardly process it. A grim-looking submersible, battered, faded, lying there like an omen. "Everyone move back," a voice shouted. But no one listened. Curiosity drew them in, eyes wide. Evelyn knelt, heart hammering in her chest. This wasn't just a vessel. It was linked to the stories about David. She picked up dirt and grime from its surface, her fingers trembling. Luke's breathing quickened beside her, his expression shifting from confusion to something darker. "Get away from it," he shouted, panic lacing his voice. But another shadow emerged, stirring the air as it glided across the lake. A second figure, rising like a ghost. It was David once more, but he was different. His body unnaturally rigid, eyes glassy, darting. Evelyn felt a wave of dread crash over her. What happened to him? And then, the unthinkable happened. He pointed at her with a shaking hand, voice low and dripping with venom. "You shouldn't have saved him, Evelyn," he rasped. "You were never meant to. This was never about him." Shock squeezed the air out of her lungs. The crowd recoiled, whispers racing wild. "What does he mean?" someone gasped. Luke's gaze shot to David. "What do you mean?" His voice cracked, pain mixing with disbelief. David grinned, a twisted smile that chilled Evelyn to the bone. "You're not who you think you are," he hissed. "You were never meant to be." Before he could finish, the submersible shuddered, dark water spilling out, revealing twisted roots and jagged bones. The ground trembled again. Evelyn's heart raced. What secrets lay buried beneath this lake? What ties did David have to her and to Luke? Her entire world tilted, reality fracturing into jagged pieces. And then, the notes she'd seen in Luke's hand. What if they held the truth? The people, the family, were shifting under the weight of this revelation. She glanced back at Luke, who stared wide-eyed, trembling. How much did he know? As the crowd gasped, fear and confusion swirling around them, Evelyn stood frozen. The air crackled with unspoken secrets. What had Luke's family hidden from him? And what price would she pay to understand the truth? She felt it deep in her bones. The revelation was just the beginning. Evelyn's heart raced, stuck between shock and terror. She could feel the crowd teetering on the edge of hysteria, whispers flying like sparks in a dry room. Luke's eyes were wide, searching, desperate for answers, for reassurance. Something to anchor him against David's haunting words. "What do you mean, I'm not who I think I am?" Luke's voice trembled, raw with confusion. "What are you talking about?" Before David could answer, the ground shook again, and the submersible groaned, almost as if it were alive. The crowd gasped in unison, their breaths caught tight in their throats. Panic spread like wildfire as they stumbled back, fear creeping into their eyes. Evelyn stared at David, who held this wicked grin, something dark boiling beneath the surface. She felt those around her inching closer, drawn in like moths to a flame, caught in the gravity of this storm. "Listen," David rasped, his finger quivering in the air. "The truth isn't what you think, Luke. It never was." Before he could say more, a shadow shifted behind him, a figure slowly emerging from the mist, as if the fog itself had birthed a ghost. Evelyn squinted, her heart hammering with dread. It was a woman, soaked and cold, her hair plastered against her face like seaweed. Evelyn gasped, recognizing her. "No," she murmured. It was Anna, Luke's mother, thought to be long gone. The last time anyone saw her, she was bound to the family's sinister mysteries beneath this very lake. She looked up, eyes wild, scanning the crowd. "They took me. They took all of us." She stumbled forward, clutching at the air. "The lake, it's alive. It feeds on secrets. It feeds on the family." Luke trembled beside her, torn between disbelief and an instinct that clutched at his gut. "Mom?" The denial dripped from his voice as he stepped closer. "You can't be. Listen." Anna's voice cut through the disbelief. "You have to believe me, Luke. They're coming back." In that moment, the submersible shuddered violently. A low rumble escaped it, like it was awakening from a long sleep. A final gasp erupted, a sound that was almost human, a suffering cry of those trapped within. Evelyn's pulse quickened as shadowy figures began to materialize around them, ghostly silhouettes, rising, clutching at the fog, desperate and hollow. "Get away from it," a voice screamed, and the crowd recoiled again, but Evelyn felt rooted to the ground. She had found herself at the center of chaos, with secrets gnashing like teeth all around her. The elements collided, fear, urgency, and desperation thrumming in the air. As David's eyes locked onto Anna's, "You were meant to stay hidden," he shouted, anger and betrayal etched into his expression. "You were the reason for it all." "What have you done?" Anna cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We tried to keep him safe. We didn't have a choice." A silence enveloped them, as each chilling revelation cracked like ice. Luke's breath hitched, and his confusion morphed into something darker, pain mingled with betrayal. "What are you talking about? What were you keeping from me?" Before either of them could respond, the ground beneath them shifted again, and David's face twisted with desperation. "This isn't over. You don't understand the storm we've triggered." And just like that, darkness rushed forth from the depths of the lake, a thick, horrible wave swallowing everything in its path. Evelyn threw her arms around Luke. "We need to run," she shouted, but the cacophony grew louder. The shadows from the lake twisted together, forming a vortex, pulling them closer. A malevolent force rising to claim its secrets. "What price would you pay for your family's truth?" David's voice echoed over the chaos. "Are you ready to face what lies beneath?" Evelyn looked at Luke, his expression a storm of emotions. Secrets swirled like a cyclone, and the air thickened with uncertainty. They were on the brink of chaos, and everything they thought they knew was about to unfurl. What lay beneath the lake, and would they survive to see the truth? The chaos wrapped around them, like vines suffocating the light. Dark shapes crawled out of the murky depths, their forms twisting, clawing towards the shore, as the submersible heaved, spilling its secrets like confetti at a funeral. Evelyn clutched Luke's arm, her heart a jackhammer in her chest, fear pounding in rhythm. With the chaos around them, "Mom," Luke shouted, desperation echoing in his voice. "What do you mean they took you?" His eyes darted between Anna and David, bewildered. The air crackled with tension, breaths hitching as another shadow swept forward from the lake, wrapping around them like tendrils reaching for their souls. And then, the unimaginable happened. With a sudden, sharp breath, David lunged forward, arms outstretched, but instead of lunging toward Luke, he dove right into the lake. The crowd gasped, confusion swirling. "What's wrong with him?" someone cried out. "Is he mad?" But David didn't surface. As the water settled, the mist hung heavy, leaving everyone breathless, trapped in the horror of the moment. Evelyn turned to Anna. "What does he know? What's happening?" Panic clutched at her throat, choking her words. "I tried to warn him, but—" Anna's voice trembled, face pale. "It was never about him. It's—" Before she could finish, another figure emerged from the mist, gliding toward the shore, causing the ground to shake once more. This time it wasn't a ghostly form or David rising again. It was a girl, no older than 12, her face ghostly pale. Hair soaked and mingling with the water, eyes wide and unseeing, almost ethereal. "Lucy?" Luke murmured, stepping back, disbelief painted across his features. "What are you doing here?" The girl reached out. "You have to stop him." Her voice rose sharp and clear over the chaos, as if a bell had been struck. "You don't know what's awake beneath the lake." Evelyn's stomach dropped. "Lucy, but you— It's not just about David." The girl's voice cracked, raw with fear. "The lake wants its price, and he's the key. You have the choice, Luke. You can break it, or unleash it." The crowd exploded, shouts and panic mixing, people scrambling, hands flying, gasping at this girl who had vanished years ago. Luke stumbled closer, confusion and terror twisting in his eyes. "How are you here? You were— What's the truth, Luke?" David's voice echoed from the lake. rising again, dripping with malice. You need to decide before it's too late. Do you let your family keep their secrets, or let them drown? The girl's eyes darkened, lingering on Luke. He's right. They'll do anything to keep it buried, but you can make it right. Everything turned icy as whispers spread through the crowd. Was Lucy really here? And what would Luke choose? Evelyn's pulse quickened. She glanced at Anna and then to Luke, trying to see the boy she knew beneath the confusion. You can't listen to him. But Luke's gaze shifted, the weight of expectation heavy on his shoulders. All this time, I thought I knew them, but now, everything's changing. As shadows crept closer, engulfing them in uncertainty, Evelyn felt the ground beneath her tremble. The air thickened, and before she could comprehend the depth of it all, the truth erupted like a bomb. Evelyn isn't who we think she is. Anna wept suddenly, the words spilling out like poison. Gasps erupted in rhythm, fingers pointing, eyes widening. What does that mean? Luke's voice was a whisper, as if he feared the answer. Isn't it obvious? David laughed, a twisted sound that split the air. She's not just the housekeeper. Evelyn's heart sank. The world spun around her, and the realization crashed. What do you mean? She choked out, panic rising to meet the threat lurking beneath the surface. Darkness. Drawing near. Anna's tears fell like heavy rain. You're part of the family. You always have been. Luke recoiled, disbelief morphing into devastation. No, that can't be true. She's just what? David's laughter echoed with youthful menace. Just the one trying to save you. You don't know. The shadows shifted, and Evelyn felt them swallow the light, engulfing her in uncertainty. What's the truth? Luke shouted, desperation tinged with fear. But the answer lingered just beyond the reach of their understanding, leaving them all gasping for clarity, standing on the razor's edge of revelation, caught in a storm waiting to break. Evelyn's heart raced, stuck between shock and terror. The whispers around her escalated, creating a whirlwind of confusion. Luke's eyes darted between his mother and David, searching for the thread that could unravel this tangled horror. What do you mean I'm not who I think I am? Luke's voice was raw, each word trembling with disbelief and fear. David leaned closer, a sinister grin creeping on his lips. The truth, Luke, is buried deeper than you know. You've lived in shadows all this time. Anna's face contorted with urgency as she stepped forward, her voice breaking. You don't understand. My family was cursed, your family. Before she could continue, the air around them shifted, thick with dread. Evelyn felt it first, a chilling vibration under her feet, like the very ground was waking. Whispers turned into frantic shouts as the ground began to crack. Move back, someone yelled, panic rippling through the crowd. But Evelyn stood frozen, her eyes locked onto David. His eyes gleamed with something darker, a mix of enthusiasm and madness. Then came the unthinkable, a blinding flash from the lake. Water erupted in a violent geyser, sending a cold spray in every direction. The ground shook violently. Terrifying screams pierced the air, and all Evelyn could do was hold on to Luke as the brightness dazed her. Then, amidst the chaos, a figure emerged, a swirling mass of shadows coalescing into something formed and whole. As the water parted, a silhouette surged forth, tall and imposing, glowing with an eerie phosphorescent light. "Stop this," David shouted, voice straining, unfurling accusations into the chaos. "You don't know what you're doing." The crowd recoiled as the figure stepped into the light. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. It was a woman, but not just any woman. It was her, a version of her, an older, malicious version, wearing a dress that shimmered with dark reflections. The crowd gasped collectively, eyes widening in disbelief. Luke's breath caught. "Evelyn," he whispered, confusion swirling in his gaze. "No." The alternate Evelyn laughed, a sound that echoed with malice. "You're all fools. I've been watching, guiding, waiting for the right moment to reclaim what is mine." "What are you talking about?" Luke's voice wavered, confusion battling fear. The other Evelyn smiled, eyes bright with twisted joy. Your family's secrets aren't buried in the lake. They're buried deep within you, Luke. You were meant to lead this. They never told you because they were afraid you'd rise above them. The crowd stirred restlessly, but all Evelyn could hear was the blood pounding in her ears. She felt the truth settle on her like a cloak of ice. No, it can't be. You're lying. The mirrored Evelyn turned to her, face twisting in a smirk. Lying? You think you could be anything but a pawn in a game? Of familial betrayal. You've always belonged to us, to them. You are everything they fear and desire. What did that mean? Horror gripped Evelyn's chest. Did she really belong to this family? Was she a hidden heir? Evelyn, Luke shouted, reaching for her, but his voice was drowned out by the clamor around them. You have to listen. But the chaos swirled dangerously, shadows reaching out. In one swift motion, the alternate Evelyn raised her hand, and the shadows spiraled toward Evelyn, clawing at reality itself. Stay away, Luke shouted, stepping forward protectively. But it was too late. The ground rumbled, and time itself seemed to hold its breath. The shadows enveloped Evelyn, black tendrils wrapping around her arms, pulling her toward the other self. Join your true family. The other Evelyn cackled, laughter echoing ominously above the screams. Evelyn's heart raced, panic surging like a tide. Just as she felt the world slipping away, she locked eyes with Luke. Find the truth, she screamed, the weight of everything crashing around her, as shadows pooled at her feet, drowning her in darkness. And then, in a final burst of light, everything went black. The crowd's horrified expressions faded, and for a heartbeat she was gone, lost in the abyss of her own fate. What had happened? What would Luke choose when the dust settled? The ground shook with unanswered questions, and the lake's depths held secrets yet to be revealed. Evelyn gasped as darkness enveloped her. The pressure of the shadows tightened like a vice, threatening to crush her under their weight. Panic surged through her veins. Where was she? What was happening? Then white-hot pain lanced through her, shock waves jolting her senses. With a jolt, her world shifted. A blinding light cut through the bleakness, and suddenly, she was back on the shore, gasping for air, the cacophony of screams and shouts clawing at her consciousness. But everything felt different. The lake shimmered, the shadows retreating, revealing Monday's sun cutting through the clouds. The crowd was frozen, eyes wide with viral fear, as if they had all witnessed a living nightmare. But something was off. Evelyn felt a pull, a magnetic force drawing her attention to the lake's edge, where David now stood, towering like a monument of dread. "Let her go!" Luke shouted, his voice cracking, raw with desperation. He stepped forward, eyes blazing with determination. But David merely laughed, a hollow sound that echoed into the stillness. "You think you can save her? You don't even know what she is." He pointed at Evelyn, the accusation sharp and pointed. Reeling with confusion, she met Luke's gaze. His eyes were frantic, searching for answers, finding only shadows of betrayal wrapped around them. What the hell was David talking about? As if answering her unasked question, a tremor laced through the earth beneath their feet. The crowd teetered, panic rippling like waves against the shore. "What do you mean?" Evelyn's voice trembled, barely above a whisper, but the weight of it stretched across the chasm of uncertainty. "Take a look, Evelyn. You were never just a housekeeper. This all leads back to you," David insisted, eyes ablaze with manic ambition. He pointed downward, and in that moment the ground erupted. Black tendrils burst forth from the earth, writhing like snakes, clawing at the surface. Evelyn watched in horror as fragments of dirt and roots spiraled up. Among them, pieces of what looked like old photographs and brittle documents trickled out, floating like fallen leaves, revealing faces she'd never seen before. With every gasp, every flutter of confusion, things became clearer. Luke staggered back, horror painted across his face as the pieces settled around them. A family crest, a letter, a picture of a woman who looked strikingly like Evelyn. "No, it can't be," he whispered, the truth dawning as he picked up the letter, the words trembling on the edges. "Evelyn, you're—" Suddenly, with a deafening crack, the air shrieked, and the shadows pulsated, pushing to surge forward once again. But there was a sudden scream, this time different, echoing with grief and longing. A figure huddled at the edge of the crowd. "Stop! Don't listen to him!" A woman's voice, strong and fierce. Evelyn turned, and her breath hitched. It was Lucy, alive and real, standing before them, a mirror of every haunting dream Evelyn had ever had. But Lucy was older, her eyes filled with a knowing darkness. "Lucy!" Luke's voice was a desperate gasp. "You were lost. How?" "I was never lost," Lucy interrupted, her voice piercing through the chaos. She stepped forward. "It was all a lie, a trap set long before we were born. We were meant to rise. All of us." Evelyn's heart thundered. This wasn't just a reunion. This was something far more sinister. Unfolding. The truth wrapped around her like a chain, and the world tilted again, throwing her from solid ground. "The lake isn't just the source of secrets. It's a weapon," Lucy said, her voice firm. "And it's hungry." "What's that supposed to mean?" Luke's voice cracked, fear spilling over into raw desperation. The shimmering surface of the lake broke apart, revealing faces pressing through the water. Shadows merged, dark forms clawing for freedom. The crowd began to panic, scrambling backward, but Evelyn stood her ground, staring at the horror unfolding. And then a scream erupted, shattering the tension. The laughter of David pierced through the chaos one last time. "This is just the beginning." With that, something dark surged from the depths, ensnaring the shadows. A power awakened, and eyes turning into unrecognizable voids. Evelyn felt the world shatter around her, every moment crashing together, every bond twisting in the depths of the lake's truth. As if an unbidden clock were ticking down, the reality of everything she thought she knew crumbled. The fate of all of them hung by the thinnest of threads, and somewhere in that darkness, the true monster awaited. What lurked beneath, craving what was lost? And would they survive long enough to face it together? The shadows writhed at the edge of the lake, reaching for the light, and Evelyn felt an icy grip around her. Heart. The echoes of David's laughter faded, replaced by the urgency in Luke's voice. "Evelyn, please, we have to get out of here." But before she could move, the swirling darkness intensified. The figures rising from the water twisted, forming shapes that clawed toward her, shadows hungry for chaos. Above the roar and the screams, Lucy's voice cut through again. "You have to resist it, Evelyn. Fight it. Don't let it take you." Evelyn's mind churned, confusion tearing at her. What did Lucy mean? This was all so surreal, yet the fear felt real. She turned to David, anger boiling. "You've done this. You've made it all worse." David stepped closer, eyes gleaming with dark triumph. "You think any of this is about me? The lake wants its keeper. It wants you." Suddenly, the ground convulsed beneath them. An explosion of water erupted from the lake, unleashing a torrent like a creature breaking free. The crowd gasped, fear spilling over. Evelyn clung to Luke, but the shadows twisted and churned, pulling them apart. "Evelyn!" Luke shouted, his voice breaking like glass. She could barely hear him through the chaos. And then Lucy screamed, pointing toward the sky. "Look!" Evelyn followed her gaze, and her heart plummeted. A massive, dark cloud swirled overhead, coalescing into a shape that defied reality. It circled like a predator, encapsulating them all in dread. "No," Luke yelled, pulling Evelyn close. "We have to." But before he could finish his thought, a thunderous crack pierced the air, tearing through the chaos. Lightning shot down, striking the very lake they stood beside. The water shimmered, and in that moment of blinding brightness, everything shifted. Evelyn felt weightless, suspended between worlds. And then, in the blink of an eye, she was no longer standing on the shore, no longer surrounded by screams and chaos. Now she stood in a dimly lit room, filled with flickering candles and old, worn books. The air smelled of parchment and something sweet and heavy. Confusion twisted inside her. Where was she? And then she saw them, sitting quietly at a long table, faces familiar yet distant. They were all there, those she thought she'd lost, the ones whose lives felt entwined with her own. Luke, Anna, David, even Lucy. But they were younger, more innocent, faces untouched by pain or fear. "What is this?" Evelyn breathed, raw disbelief choking her words. Luke turned, eyes wide, recognition flooding back. "Evelyn, you made it!" "You were never meant to see this," Ada said calmly, a soft smile crossing her lips, yet her expression held something darker, something buried. "What is happening?" Evelyn pleaded. "Why are we here? What do you know?" "That's just it," David spoke softly, but there was a heaviness in his tone. "You were meant to lead us, Evelyn. You were the one chosen to take over the legacy." "What legacy? I never wanted any of this." Evelyn felt anger rise, but it was nothing compared to the tumult in her heart. Then Lucy stepped forward, her gaze steady. "You don't understand. This isn't just about the lake. It's about who we are, where we come from, and what we will become. The darkness wants us, Evelyn, and it has plans for you." Suddenly, the doors burst open, and a chilling wind swept through the room. Shadowy tendrils snaked inside, reaching for her ankles, whispers dancing in her ears. "Join us. Become one with our power," they taunted. In that moment, it hit Evelyn like an icy wave. Everything she thought she knew tore apart at the seams. "No, this can't be happening," she gasped. And then, as she fought against the grasping shadows, a realization hit her like a stone. The true nature of the legacy wasn't just about the family or the lake. It was about her. She could change everything. She could become stronger, harness the shadows for herself, or choose, David shouted. Choose or be consumed. Evelyn's heart raced at the brink of decision. Would she embrace this darkness, or fight against it? The shadows clung tighter, their whispers beckoning her deeper into the depths of her own power. The fate of everything hung in a delicate balance, teetering on the edge. What would she become? And would Luke stand by her side, or against her? The weight of the moment twisted, leaving her gasping, an entire life hanging by a thread of choice. Evelyn's heart thundered in her chest, each thump echoing in the depths of her fear. Shadows clawed at her, their whispers wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. "You have to choose." David's voice sliced through the chaos. "No." Evelyn fought against the encroaching dark, pulse racing. She couldn't give in. She wouldn't become what they wanted her to be. She glanced at Luke, his face twisted in anguish, eyes glistening with a mixture of hope and dread. "Luke, help me." He lunged toward her, determination bleeding into his features. "I won't let them take you." His voice cracked, desperation spilling out. But the shadows laughed, a twisted chorus, and the air crackled with dark energy. Suddenly, Lucy stepped forward, defiance igniting her eyes. "We can break this curse. Together, we can make things right." But as her words hung in the air, the shadows surged, responding to their fear. The dark tendrils slithered, reaching for Lucy, pulling her back. "No," Luke shouted, extending a hand, horror etched on his face. In a split second, the atmosphere shifted. The shadows writhed as something vibrant and alive erupted from the depths of the lake. Evelyn felt the ground shake beneath her, a tidal wave of emotion crashing over her. And then, right before her eyes, a figure emerged, rising from the water with a torrent of fury. It was a woman, glistening, with hair that flowed like liquid darkness and an ethereal glow that illuminated everything around her. The crowd gasped, recoiling. "Mother?" Luke's voice trembled, disbelief flooding his face. "Is that you?" The woman turned, locking eyes with him. "Luke, my sweet boy." She stepped onto the shore, dripping water like liquid silver, her expression a tempest of love and sorrow. "Why did you leave us?" he shouted, pain tinged with anger. "We thought you were gone." But the woman shook her head, an imperceptible sadness shadowing her features. "I was trapped. I couldn't escape." Evelyn's breath hitched. "What do you mean trapped?" This wasn't just about her anymore. The air thickened with revelations and terror gripped her stomach. "I was bound to the lake, just as you are now, just as David is," the woman cried, her voice trembling with an age-old burden. "The shadows thrive on our secrets, feeding off the darkness we try to hide. They want you, Evelyn." Another wave of nausea washed over Evelyn. "Why? What do they want with me?" "Because you're the key," she whispered, and in that instant, everything changed. A deafening roar echoed, shaking the very sky above them. As Evelyn stared in shock at the woman, the turbulent waters behind her began to swirl again, revealing dozens of hands reaching up, clawing at the surface. "No!" Luke shouted, fear erupting again as he stepped back. Amid the chaos, a realization pierced through the confusion, hitting Evelyn like a lightning bolt. "Wait, if they're trapped, if you're trapped, then who am I? What are you talking about?" David shouted, his composure faltering, rage bubbling below the surface. Evelyn felt her heart race, pieces falling into place, every connection tightening like a noose. "No, it can't be," she breathed. The truth clawed at the edges of her mind, a haunting image blossoming in the dark. "I'm not just a housekeeper, am I?" The shadows flickered, silver eyes glowing within, as if the very lake itself held its breath. The crowd murmured, confusion writhing like snakes. But Evelyn could see it now through the haze, the threads of fate tying them all together. "Evelyn, please." Luke reached for her again, his voice a tether in the storm. "You have to fight, whatever this is." And just as she was about to respond, the woman spoke words that would shift everything. "You have my blood, Evelyn. You are destined to take the throne, my throne." Evelyn's heart dropped into her stomach. The world around her spun. "That's impossible. I'm nobody." Not anymore. The shadows surged forward, those reaching hands becoming more desperate. "You will either kill us all or save us." The crowd erupted in chaos, voices rising in shock and fear as the very foundation of their reality crumbled. In that moment, Evelyn understood. Her life, her choices, her family. It was all a lie. Everything she thought she knew about herself twisted into something so much darker. "What am I?" she whispered, a haunting truth clinging to her lips. And as the darkness surged forward, the truth loomed overhead, waiting to consume them all. Leaving only one question: who would she choose to be? Evelyn's heart raced as the chaos around her rose like a tidal wave. The shadows clamored for her, their urgent whispers wrapping around her, promising power and pain simultaneously. "You are the key," they hissed. "You can set us free." "No," she shouted, firming her resolve. The dark tendrils coils around her legs tightened, but with each word she pushed back, anger and defiance flooding through her. "I will not be your pawn." Luke surged forward, his eyes fierce with determination. "You have to believe in yourself. You're stronger than any shadow that tries to control you." The desperation in his voice cast light through the darkness. Evelyn turned, meeting his gaze. Hope flickered between them, igniting something deep within her. "You're right," she said, her voice steady, despite fear wrapping around her heart. "I won't give in." As she spoke, the shadows shrieked, writhing violently. The figures in the lake surged upward, faces twisted in anguish. The woman who claimed to be her mother stood firm, the raw energy radiating from her. "You have the strength to rewrite your story, Evelyn. Take back what's yours." Tremors rumbled through the ground as Evelyn focused, feeling the pulse of the lake beneath her feet. She remembered the warmth of the sun, the joy of simple moments with Luke. How laughter had filled their days, Drawing those memories into herself, she commanded the shadows to still. I choose like. With a deafening roar, the dark tendrils recoiled. The shadows staggered back, pulling away from her as Evelyn thrust her arm out, glowing with her newfound strength. A brilliant light erupted from within her, illuminating everything, piercing through the suffocating darkness. "No!" David screamed, his figure dissolving into the shadows. "You'll regret this." But his words were swallowed in the brilliance that swept away the darkness, leaving nothing but silence. Evelyn saw the faces of the shadows fade, anguish replaced with relief. The lake calmed, its violent surface now composed, reflecting the light like a serene mirror. She felt a weight lift from her, as a fresh breeze swept through, washing over her like a cleansing tide. The shadows retreated into the depths, murmuring their defeat, and Evelyn took a deep breath, blinking against the bright sun. "It's over," she whispered, looking at Luke, whose face softened with a mix of disbelief and gratitude. "Is it really over?" he asked, a smile creeping onto his lips. "Did we really win?" Evelyn stepped closer, their hands intertwining. "For now, but we have to remember the truth, and what we've come from." The crowd, once full of panic, climbed back from the abyss of confusion. They stood together, not just as families or strangers, but as survivors, connected by the ordeal. Evelyn met Anna's eyes, holding an understanding that passed between them. They had fought demons together, and now they could heal. Days passed and the lake's dark secrets receded. They built a memorial for the lost, honoring their sacrifices while embracing their future. The stories of the Mitchell family faded into whispers, but the truth endured, woven into their lives. As Evelyn turned to leave, she felt a presence beside her. Lucy walked forward, a smile breaking across her face. "You did it, Evelyn. You helped us all. Now, what's next?" Evelyn grinned. "We rebuild. Together." The echoes of their laughter filled the air as they walked away from the shadows, stepping into a future ripe with possibility, embracing life beyond the haunting memories of the lake. And now, you have to do something. If you enjoyed this journey, you have to subscribe right now. Don't miss out on any of the next exclusive stories we have coming. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this all wraps up. This is the moment to show your support.